everybody, this is Everything is Fun, Everything is Ruined. I am your host, as always, Tristan, the greatest. With me today, as always, Hassan.
That's me.
Somewhat the greatest. Now, here's the thing, Hassan. I got a question for you.
Okay.
How much do you like running and jumping video games? Your basic, cool platformers.
Oh, like 3D? Yeah, I'm
3D,
down for that.
2D, it doesn't matter, whichever one you like. Do you prefer
if it's like
3D?
a Metroidvania, I'm okay on a 2D.
Sure.
But if it's like an actual 2D platformer, I'm a little more iffy on those.
Yeah, okay.
Some I like, some
what-
I'm not going to.
What's your favorite 3D platformer then?
Ooh, favorite 3D platformer.
Yep.
I might say Super Mario Sunshine, even though I know that game has problems.
You know what?
I spent a lot of time on that.
Mad respect for that, because that game's pretty fucking good, I think. It's an underrated gem, I would say. Well, what if we took Super Mario Sunshine from the GameCube and we added in a system where every time you defeat an enemy, you get 1 experience point.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that could work. Be a little weird, but
Yeah.
I'm all right with it.
And then, what if you accrue those experience points and get a new level for your character, for your Mario?
I guess instead of like getting new stuff, once you go to a level, that's when you get to experience something new. You could just unlock it by grinding it out. That's an interesting choice,
I'm in the character level, actually. Like, now this level 2 Mario can jump just a little bit higher.
That's what I'm saying. Like, instead of, you have to go to the next stage to get something new, you could just grind it out in stage 1. That could be interesting, I guess.
Well, what if your experience points, like in every other video game, goes up incrementally? Requirements go up incrementally as well. That way, you're always just below the cusp of where you need to be.
A little bit less into it, not gonna lie.
Also, hear me out though. This time, we gave Mario a stamina bar.
Well, it kind of already has that.
But now you can only jump when that bar is like basically full.
That one investor who asked on the call about, hey, can people pay 99 cents to make him jump more? Wouldn't that be great monetization? He's probably loving a lot of things you're suggesting.
Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do with the next Mario. As far as what I've been told from Nintendo, my uncle works there, so he's told me these things.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
he is. Yeah, he does. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, he's worked there for like a long time, since like 86.
How old's your uncle?
73.
Okay, that checks out.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so he's been there for like a long time, and he keeps telling me all the cool things that Nintendo's going to do, like implement more role-playing game mechanics into Mario and stuff.
Sick.
Yeah. Cool. Also, now every time you go to try and fight a Goomba or like jump on a creature or whatever, the game's going to stop, and it's going to be like, all right, roll initiative.
Oh, so it's like Fallout.
Sort of, yeah. But more so, yeah, it's like Fallout. Yeah, it's basically adding in Super Mario RPG into your regular Mario games, but now it is every time you try and attack something.
Honestly, that'd be kind of neat to try and see somebody do that in a 3D platformer. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it might work, but them's just pipe dreams. Except for the fact that like pretty much every video game is doing this these days. Why is that, Hassan?
Well, Tristan, today's topic, we're here to talk about the unnecessary RPGification of video games. I'm tired of video games having rocket-propelled grenades in them. I don't understand why Mario needs one. I don't know why God of War needs one. It's just silly. they shouldn't have those. They don't even match. No.
Let me explain to you why Mario needs an RPG, like why he needs a rocket propelled grenade. First off, he's got to fight against the Americans. And
no, he is an American.
Oh, I thought he was from New York.
Yes, which is America.
Shit.
Yeah.
But I thought he was from Brooklyn, though.
I don't know if that's just a movie live action-y kind of thing,
It is
or
not.
if it's in the video games.
That is canon Mario lore. He is from Brooklyn.
Is it? I've never honestly known that. I'm gonna be honest. I don't pay too much attention to Mario lore.
Well, I do.
Not a whole lot to pay attention to.
Here's my 2-hour-long podcast of Mario lore.
Oh no, no. We are actually here to talk about what I'm calling unnecessary RPGification of video games, and there's not just there's sort of two that I'm kind of gonna be using as a lot of examples, just because I very recently have played them, but they are certainly not the only examples of the issues and complaints that I have about it. So those being 2018's God of War, as as Immortals of Avium, which are two.
Wait, Immortals of Avium has RPG mechanics in it?
Kinda, yeah.
Unnecessary.
Yes, unnecessary. And they're two fairly different games where, God of War, third person action, Immortals of Avium, mostly first person shooter with a little bit of platforming.
Sure.
But both of them are good examples of it, and it's something that broadly the easiest way I think you can think of it and classify it as unnecessary is just that these are games that give you these options, we'll say, or choices, but that they're meaningless. They don't really impact the game in either the actual gameplay perspective of the things you are doing and how you are able to do those things, or on kind of the story side of things. And so kind of one of the big ones that has been going on for a really long time now, and that I'm just getting tired of in a lot of ways, is how many games now present you with a skill tree, but that
the skill tree
just, it's not even that it sucks, but that it's just like there's no real reason to present it as a skill tree and give me the sort of false choice of it. And so if I think about God of War, it's super weird in that game because there's like a good and a bad example of this. And so I think the actual skill tree itself, where you can select of like, I'm going to choose, this skill for my axe versus this skill for my, chains of air. I forget what his weapons are called. Chains of something.
You should know this. Not Chains of Thanatos.
Sparta? Chains of
Sparta, yeah, that's what it is. Yes.
Like you can unlock those, options in it, but unlocking those did nothing for me in terms of changing how I'm actually going into a battle encounter and fighting the actual enemies versus, and I think, a skill tree can work in a third-person action game. Devil May Cry has had that, and not every skill you unlock in that game is some fundamental combat-changing one, but you do unlock skills in that game, like Stinger, or ones where, hey, you can pull the enemy towards you, get in an extra jump off of them, or, hey, this attack is going to let you spin around with your guns. Those felt like you were unlocking actual gameplay impacting things, and that making that choice.
Devil May Cry 3 was probably the best for that because it did that first, and then kind of add an
I
element
think
to that shit.
5 was also pretty good.
It did. Yep.
And DMC Devil May Cry.
Fuck yeah.
Probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
But like that's a series where when you unlock
People hate us.
skills or whatever you want to call them, they impact how you approach the fight. But God of War, I never felt like those skills mattered. Whereas the more pared down option of the I forget what it called them, but like you could select your hold shoulder button and press B or Y attacks.
Yeah.
Those ones
Alt attacks.
felt substantial to changing how you would encounter enemy fights. Like there was one that I had where I could just at will slow down time. And that was massively different than some of those other attacks, or another one where with the axe, he would basically like charge it up and every hit would basically just stun the enemy. So if I comboed those, I could just go up to an enemy, they're slowed down, and I'm just over, just laying into them for damage. It felt like, oh, okay, this matters, but these other options just don't, even though sometimes you were unlocking attacks. And then for Immortals of Avium, I think it has one of the worst versions of that, in that with God of War, you can basically get every skill. Like,
sure.
I did not do 100% of that game. I'd say I did about 80% of the side missions in it, the meaningful ones. Some of the ones where it's like, go around and collect all these items or destroy all this thing. I didn't do those. And I unlocked every single skill in that game easily.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas Immortals of Avium, I wish I had like pen and paper right now to describe it. It is like an actual branching skill tree where I don't even think I got a quarter of the things unlocked in it. And that's a game where you get 3 different kinds of magic. And you can basically equate those magics to like, what is it? It's like, green is basically submachine gun or assault rifle.
Yep.
Blue is like a sniper, and then red is like a shotgun.
What?
And
you, honestly, you didn't have to say any of that. We already all know. It's the same with what was that game that came from Tego GameWorks? God rest their souls.
Bugger! I played that. I actually really liked that game.
Was that Ghost or something?
Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ghostwire Tokyo. Yeah, they did the exact same color coding. It's the exact same.
Oh yeah, kind of is. Yeah, you're right.
Green for the faster thing, blue for the longer range, and then red for the shotgun.
I actually really liked Ghostwire Tokyo.
I never played it. It looked really cool.
Not a great one. RPG elements of it kind of meh.
Yeah, I heard that too.
But like on Immortals of Avium, each of the colors has this big skill tree with, I don't even know, 60 unlocks or something.
Yep.
It's like, oh, in theory, I could put all of my skills into red magic and not even touch the other 2.
Yep.
But that would in no way change how the game played at all. Because all the things that you unlock with the skills, some of them are kind of neat and interesting, where it would be like, oh, if you break an enemy's shields, that'll stun them, or that'll regenerate health, or, this ability will allow so that, your attack will cause more fire damage. But it's like, at the end of the day, I'm still just, left trigger, right triggering. Whereas if I think about something like a, more action-y focus, like a Devil May Cry, again, unlocking those skills changes how I approach that fight. It opens up more options when I am combating and encountering those enemies. And that's for your, like, action games. And, like, it's not even just that I think, oh, it sucks that you're encountering these things and or these skill trees and they feel meaningless. It's also that the skill trees are just kind of too big. Like, it's it's strange to me that I look back at Mass Effect, a series I love. Mass Effect 1, big skill tree, and it made a big difference where you would spend your unlocks. You know, if you put more into tech, well, now you're going to have situations where you can hack and bypass a door, or there's an explosive that's going to go off. Well, you can just disarm it. Versus if you put your stats into like medical stuff, hey, you're going to have situations where it's like, oh no, you just have this skill. You can just help this person. It's not a like, wish I could help, but don't have the skills. And then you get to 2 and they lessen it. And then by the time you get to 3, the skill tree is basically just, oh, here's your class. Each time you reach a new level, you're just picking from one of 2 options. But it still felt substantial enough where it would be, you know, if I think about the tech class, it's like, well, do you want one drone and when the enemies defeat it, it explodes and does a ton of damage to them? Or you could choose 2 drones. Or at the next level, do you want a drone that's going to give you better hacking skills?
Yeah.
Or it'll do shock damage and stun enemies. And so it still felt like, you know, hey, we're giving you choice. It's not the most meaningful because none of those options you're choosing are going to impact combat encounters, how you come at them. They're not really going to, by 3, impact much in the way of the non-combat encounters when you're talking to characters. Hey, can you hack this door or not? But
I mean, the first game, there was a lot more of that stuff because it was more of a pure RPG, but you're right.
RPG,
later on,
But I think the thing they did that was smart was they said, okay, we still want to have these RPG-style choices.
Yes.
But let's just pare it down so that it's not tedious and annoying. So that you're not just looking at it going, I could get one of these 6 things, but none of them are going to change it, right? It's not like, oh, if I choose this thing, I can now go and complete that mission because now I can unlock this door. You know, I'm thinking about like God of War, right? That would have been interesting if that's how that worked. I just unlocked this skill. This is now like a Metroidvania. I can now smash the blue door so I can get through those. Now it's like, okay, cool. If I do XXY, he'll now spin his axe for a second. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
That doesn't mean I can beat this enemy I couldn't before, unlock this door, so...
Yeah. You're kind of touching on it here already, but like, the thing that I don't like about adding RPG mechanics to a lot of these games that don't really necessarily need them or require them is that, for me, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Because in some ways, what this does is make the game more accessible to everybody. However, it also removes mastery of the game to a degree where, like, for instance, let's say in one of the newest Halos, you just unlock the ability to make rocket jumping work for you. Like, you can just do it now. As opposed to, hey, I figured out how to rocket jump in Halo. Watch as I do this. Like, oh, that's really cool. And then everybody tries to figure it out. It removes that level of skill by adding RPG stuff to the game. Now, that is not to say that other games that have RPG elements don't have skill levels in them for the player. Because if you look at stuff like, even like back in like one of the more original action RPGs, like Symphony of the Night, like back in the old, like going more old school, that game still required you to have a level of competency in like platforming action games as well. The RPG elements just kind of like determined how your build worked. It had RPG added to it, but almost from the ground up. It's like, that's Castlevania, but also RPG, so they kind of build at the same time. As opposed to, like you're saying with God of War, where I fully agree, in the original God of War games, there was a little bit of a level up system for your weapons specifically. But those basically changed like a little bit of the dynamic to them, added like in Devil May Cry, they would add like new moves to them. They can pull off, but you still have to actually activate these moves through combos and that sort of stuff. But I remember in the 2018 God of War that, yeah, you do have a thing where you can just now unlock this, and it changes the way this button works to activate this kind of power and all this stuff. And it's like, that's fine. And it's cool that I can just get more health and stamina and shit that way. Great. But I don't feel as if it requires this.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't affect. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, I unlocked this thing. Now I can recover health on this specific kind of attack. It's not like I can go into a combat encounter and then, oh, I put all my skills into my Chains of Sparta, and so now I'm going into those and I'm exclusively using them. It's like, no, you still kind of,
Blades of Chaos. Just
Blades of Chaos. That's what it is.
Yeah, I forgot. I just
Yeah. But you actually touched on kind of the next thing that I wanted to go into, and this isn't 100% RPG fault. I'm also going to say Destiny, also partly to blame for this. But
Destiny, no, that's not. There's no blame in this. No, that's not really
again,
why I brought up Bungie.
Both, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about either of these games. I actually think the 2018 God of War is pretty good, and that Immortals of Avium, it's okay.
Best game of 2023,
not amazing, but it's a fun game to just mainline the story on.
It seems all right.
It seems all right. But both of them do something that I hate. Even like, I can tolerate the skill tree, whatever. It's annoying. It's a waste of my time. But the way that games have started to handle loot drives me bananas in these games, because it's that same problem we were just talking about, where, okay, God of War, there's so much gear that you can pick up or you can craft, and then you can slot these gems into it, and it's like, oh, cool, man, I can do 18% more damage against, like, ghouls or whatever they're called, versus
every
developer. What if instead I had an extra 9% resistance to fire?
Yeah, every developer is in the history of games is apparently, from what I can tell, a huge fan of Diablo, which is where the color loot system basically originated.
It's 100, but it's Destiny's fault. And I don't mean that.
I also,
rudely, it's literally Destiny popularized the idea of
I actually blame
that
in this
sort
case
of loot thing.
Borderlands, which came before Destiny.
And I actually think Borderlands, the first one and somewhat the second one, actually did it the right way, though, which is that
really okay.
Going back to God of War and Immortals of Avium, the problem with the gears are none of them matter. It does not matter.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm playing at the highest difficulty and I'm fighting a specific boss, okay, yeah, I want to go out and I want to make sure I can craft this armor that's going to give me that fire resistance.
Sure, of course.
So that, hey, against this one boss, that is crucial. But playing it on the normal difficulty, I did not care what particular armor I had on and what bonuses it gave me, because none of those mattered. They were so utterly pointless to have extra fire resistance or extra this damage, because I just did not feel it. And that Immortals of Avium does the same, very similar thing with it, where you get these different, gears and sort of weapons to a certain extent, and just they don't matter. It's like, whatever. If I equip this one versus this one, I barely notice a change, right?
Yeah, okay.
And the thing that I think just sucks about it is that it's like, man, I don't dislike the just lizard brainness of video games where, oh, number goes up equal good.
Number goes up is cool.
I don't mind that. But I think about, stuff like the old Ratchet and Clank games, where it's like, you just got new armor, and that was it. You literally went to a vendor. You went like, I have X amount of money. I can finally buy the next tier of armor, and that's it. I'm done. I don't have 8 different slot gears that I can also socket gems into and all this. It was just so much more simple. And like, Immortals of Avium isn't so bad about it, but God of War, the fact that, you had like 9 different materials that you might have to use to craft the gear.
That shit.
It's like, what, why? Just make everything just drop gold and then just have me spend gold instead. Especially a game where
it's preferable.
You can't really grind out enemies. It's not like it's a game where if you go back to this area, all the old enemies respawn, so you can just grind out this area to get that gear. It's like it kind of just doles it out at a set pace.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is the point of having these different materials then? It just seems pointless. Like at that point, just story progression. Just story progress, block what I can buy. Just go, no, you have to progress further in the story to unlock this thing.
Yeah. You don't even have to like show that in the shop itself. Just be like, hey, now you've gotten this far. I got new items for you, sir. It's very fucking simple. I mean, what we're discussing there is technically the way Resident Evil 4 works. Is as you go through the game, it goes like, hey, you want a cool new gun? Here you go. Look at the stats. That's actually a good example. So, God of War 2018 does the colored loot thing. It shows you the stuff you can buy early on, the crafting system, all that kind of stuff. Resident Evil 4, there's a bit of crafting, but the main thing is you're using like resources and that kind of stuff to make stuff on the fly. And then basically when you want to upgrade, you go and take your gun to a guy, and he goes like, yes, stranger, let's upgrade your weapons, all that stuff, and you make your pistol go shoot better. It shoots more and more. It's got more bullets now somehow. It's got a scope on it. It's that kind of thing. And you see the numbers go up, but there's no colorization of those numbers.
There's no colorization. You're using money. That's it. You don't have to worry about the right collectible material stuff. I don't dislike crafting.
I loathe crafting so much.
So I don't in the right kind of game.
Sure,
I think in Pokemon Legends Arceus, the crafting really helped that game. But you were using the crafting to make expendable items.
Sure.
So, it was, hey, while you're running around in this world, it's giving you a reason to like have your Pokemon just run around with you so that it, headbutts a tree to get you some wood so you can craft more Pokeballs and that. Like, there it made sense. I think in a game where you're not expending like you're not just having those to then expend them. It sucks. And I want to give some examples of where I think that was good. And on the colorization, I might be wrong, but you mentioned Borderlands, and I'm pretty sure at least on the first 2, even though they had the different rarities, I don't know. You could. So you could get the same gun at different rarities.
Yep.
But the one thing I will say is, and again, I can really only speak to Borderlands 1 and 2, is that those rarities, they at least made the impact meaningful, where it'd be like, this is just gonna make an AK-48, and this is a green version, but if you get the like purple version, the bullets will freeze enemies. You're like, okay, that matters, right? The difference between this base one and this top one actually do impact how I play the game, because then I might want to be like, well, I'll pull up my AK-48, freeze all the enemies, and then I'll switch to this other gun that just shoots out grenades, and then I can just easily grenade them all. So, like, at least for Borderlands 1 and 2, they used that sort of approach intelligently and meaningfully, Not that I still have complaints about the whole color tier thing, the loot system that basically Diablo I think came up with. Could be wrong. Something might have had it before it, but
it's possible. I'm pretty sure it was Diablo though.
Probably.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I'm with you. I'm tired of that because for me it just makes me go
cheapens it.
Oh, okay. Hey, I have all this blue gear and then I just got some gold gear, but the numbers are barely different. I'll just wait until the end where I get the purple or whatever,
where's the
gear,
epic
whatever
tier,
it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
I literally, like God of War, I literally did that with a bunch of the armor. I just went,
jeez,
I'll upgrade these like one time, and I'll just wait until I can get the final one, because who cares? This just doesn't matter. It just doesn't impact or affect me.
Nope.
And I do just want to bring up, and it's a little bit of an unfair comparison, because this is an RPG of RPGs, but Baldur's Gate 3. That also did a very good job with the gear, where different gear would literally give you different skills.
Yes.
Be like, well, oh man, this chess piece is way better than this other one, but this other one literally gives me this really good ability. That trade-off feels meaningful, right? Goes back to the choice here of, do I wear piece of armor A or piece of armor B, actually matters to me. It actually makes me think about things and contemplate it.
You know, I just realized, I guess the thing I should cite as like the original, the origin of colored gear is technically Dungeons and Dragons, just because like they've always had the like common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and epic tier of
They have.
of loot.
Were they ever colored?
No, they actually still aren't.
Okay.
Even they might be in the new edition coming out this year.
Yeah, look, anything after
assume it will.
3.5, I have no idea.
Yeah, but I mean, in 5th edition, they aren't even colored. They aren't like colored for rarity. Well, there's kind of like a hinting of like colorization, sort of. I know though that in 4th edition they colorized them, but in 4th edition they also colorized your powers, for green being like all the time, red being sometime, and blue being only occasionally.
Sure. Yeah, and look, it's not the color that's the problem, right? It is the like tiering of it. And yeah, D&D has certainly had that.
But that's like we now have the shorthand of green being not very good for some reason. So
yeah, the coloring system's always been weird, but I don't. The thing is that I think Baldur's Gate handled that well, because you could have again that situation of, well, I have this whatever it is, lowest tier item, it's green, but it gives me this spell that works really well with this or this ability, whatever it is. So the friend that I played Baldur's Gate 3 with for sort of my first main playthrough, he had these gloves that just allowed him to do extra damage when he would with thrown weapons, spears, whatever. But because of that, it meant that, hey, he could also just throw swords, axes, whatever he wanted. Literally could throw one enemy at another enemy, and it allowed him to just play in this very weird, kind of felt broken way where he's just this I think he was a dwarf or gnome, I forget. But this class where his whole thing was basically just throwing stuff. And so he had these gloves that we got within the first act that, even though stuff came along that would have way better defense stats, way better other stats. Yeah. It's still like, well, hey, even though this is some like technically low level gear, because it has this interesting sort of enhancement for me, I'm going to stick with it for a while. Yep.
I do the same thing too.
And that's the thing, is if God of War had done that, or Immortals of Avium had done that, right? If it was like, hey, Immortals of Avium, I got this weapon, and it makes my green submachine gun magic home in on enemies, so it'll just basically never miss. Yeah. hey, then even if I get a better thing, I might go, well, yeah, I'll do more damage. But with this, if I'm just never missing, who cares, right? Like, hey, if on this I'm missing even a couple of shots, damage output, this is just going to be better.
Yeah.
But it just never did that. It was always just, nope, this just makes boring numbers go up. That, who cares? Cool
and great. Thanks, boring numbers. Yeah, that's the thing with the color loot system is that in most of these games, it is just number goes up. We add maybe elemental number. Maybe this one does fire damage now. Maybe this one does ice, whatever.
Yeah,
poison. Damage over time.
It goes back to that Borderlands thing of, hey, it's cool if it does fire damage. It's cool if it does ice damage.
Yep.
But what does that mean? If I do fire damage to enemies, are they then going to say have to put the fire out? So they have to pause attacking me and brush fire off themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then maybe I do want that because then I can just again put it on my submachine gun, hit a bunch of the enemies. Or going back to Borderlands, right? You get weapons that, hey, it's just going to freeze enemies. Or it would do things like set the enemies on fire so that they stop attacking you.
Yeah.
But if it's just, it does fire damage. You're like, so what does that mean? Oh, well, they'll kind of slowly just take a couple extra hit points off the enemies over time.
They burn. That doesn't... They'll play an audio cue of him screaming a little bit, but still attack you normally. So
yeah, it's okay, but that doesn't change things. That doesn't give an impact to the game, right?
The severe RPGification of video games also has me yearning for fucking GoldenEye, where shooting a guy in a specific spot would make them react in a specific way. It doesn't happen anymore. We don't get that. So it's now that that's gone, and it's just enemies now will still attack you while they're on fire, or maybe they'll run away a little bit, but usually they don't really care enough to not run and attack you. And it's just I hate this. This seems so irresponsive. I find especially shooters that have RPG elements just so bland to play these days. If I don't have enemies that if I hit them in a certain way, they will stagger or do a certain thing, what's the point? What are we doing here?
It's actually funny because I've been playing Far Cry 6, and that game has pretty much stripped out all the previous RPG elements where you would be selecting skills and that. Yeah, so that's gone. And you can still customize your weapons, but the customization is meaningful while also being fairly basic, where you can essentially apply the same sort of mods to every weapon. And they're some of them are going to be more basic, where it'll just be hey, this will just allow you to do damage against armored enemies that otherwise basically wouldn't take damage. Okay, well, that actually does change things, right? I'm going to want that on my sniper rifle. Versus there's more interesting stuff where it's this just lets you poison an enemy. If you just shoot them, they're just then going to be stuck there coughing and slowly dying. I actually think that game is a good example of a game that looked at stuff and went, these RPG elements, they're kind of pointless. They're not changing how you encounter the game. Let's just take them away on focus and focus on what actually affects the core gameplay of this and what matters. It does have, a bunch of cosmetic stuff, and it does actually have a bunch of gear stuff that kind of does that meaningless stat increase.
Sure.
But it doesn't, the crafting of it is literally just money. That's all that matters. There's no other stuff. Yeah. And you don't have to engage in it at all. I think it's actually a really good modern example of a game that looked at a lot of this stuff and said, just drop it. It doesn't matter. Let's go back to how things used to be.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. Thank you, Ubisoft. You did the right thing.
That's a rarity.
It's a rarity.
It's very rare.
And it does now bring me to probably the last thing that I want to talk about that is one of the worst. One of the like just I just don't understand why games do this, which is the non-impacting dialogue choices.
Oh yeah.
So God of War didn't really have that, but Immortals of Aveum has that, and a game that I regularly play, Genshin also has that, where it's like, game, why are you giving me dialogue choices, right? So to be, some character who's just there, and it's like, trying to think like, oh, my wife left me, and you can just be like, sympathetic answer, rude answer, and it's like, okay, whichever one you choose, you get one different response out of whoever you're talking to.
Yeah.
And then the next 6 lines after that, they're going to give you the exact same thing. It's like, well, then why? What is the point of having me choose?
Yep.
Why? What difference does it make in giving me this choice of how I am speaking to a character?
I blame the perception of Telltale games. Like, not. I don't blame them. Here's the thing. I don't blame them for this thing, because they did it correctly. Where if you made a choice, that stuck. Like, there are very specific choices in those games where, like, if you make a choice, you'll get someone killed, you'll get the world changed in some way, whatever happens. But the perception of games is that we still have this specific story to tell. We can't stray from that. We can't have this one character die because we made them important. Okay, well, so what happens if you choose like the renegade option? Well, they just get mad a little bit and then go back to talking to you normally.
Yeah.
No.
And like, so you mentioned Telltale, and I think you're right that a lot of games took the wrong things away from something like that, where if you play through those sorts of games multiple times, you do realize that ultimately your choices aren't kind of affecting too much, right? It's sort of it's the equivalent of you're driving along a road, and it kind of doesn't matter if you go, okay, take the right path, back to the center, then go left, then back to the center, then right, keep right, keep right. Eventually, you're going to reach an endpoint, but you're going to see different things along the way to get there. So that one, there is this impact with it. But I think other games that have only a couple of instances where you can make choices, but that they actually still, even though the change in no way affects the gameplay, in no way affects the story, is still at least interesting and feels like, hey, I made that choice, and that did actually feel like there was a difference. Is one, the machine gun or machine games? Machine gun. Pretty sure it's machine gun games. They're Wolfenstein, so Wolfenstein.
Oh, yeah.
The New Colossus and Old Blood, I think are the names of those two.
You're correct.
Those are ones where, in the first one, you could choose. Do you save this young 20-something guy, or do you let him die and save a middle-aged guy? And regardless of which one you save, which one you let die, nothing changes about the missions you get, about any of the other characters you interact with. But it does change which of them is at your base, what sort of dialogue you get to hear because of that.
Yep.
And so, even though you could argue it's a meaningless and pointless choice, it is still a choice that you see a different result out of.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And I think another game where, in some ways, the choice you could argue is meaningless, but the first BioShock, where you can either choose to harvest the plasma from the little sisters,
Yes.
or you could choose to let them go. And depending on which of those choices you make, yeah, you'll get a little more plasma or not, but you'll also get the opportunity to buy different abilities.
Yep, exactly.
Different atoms, I think those are called. And that felt interesting because, again, doesn't change any other character interactions, doesn't change any of the bosses you have to fight, whatever. Doesn't let you skip anything like that. It's not like a Baldur's Gate or anything like that. But there's still a consequence. There are still results from those choices you make. Whereas, like, in Immortals of Avium, there's literally early on a character that you can just basically tell the equivalent to of, like, suck my dick in a really rude way to them. And then later, later on, it's not like they're, standoffish to you or rude or referencing back to it, going like, hey, man, yeah, it's me, the guy you said that to. Why don't you go F yourself? I don't like you.
Yeah.
Like,
Instead, he probably just shows me like, hey, I remember you told me to suck your dick before. Anyway, yeah, here you go. Get through the gate. You're allowed into the city now. I just wanted you to know. I just wanted you to know that I remember that. Cool. All right, but you can still go and enjoy your time.
Because for me, a skill tree that doesn't affect gameplay, it's just tedious. It's annoying.
Oh, yeah.
I can live with it. I might not like it. Gear and loot that's overly tedious. Again, it's annoying, but I can live with it. But when you present actual conversational choices or even choices within a mission of, ooh, which way do you want to take this? And it just affects nothing. It's like that sucks. Why give me the options to be a rude dick to people if they still have to answer to me, if they still have to give the same canned line of dialogue to me no matter what? It's like, well, then just don't have me make a choice. I know why they have you make the choice, and it's because, oh man, we don't want this person sitting there for 4 minutes just pressing the A button over again, or not even necessarily pressing the A button, just sitting there, and it's not even a proper cutscene. It's an in-game conversation.
Back in my day, here we go. Back in my day, Hideo Kojima released games with 2-hour-long cutscenes, and we watched those things and we liked it. Young whippersnappers.
That is a whole other conversation.
I know.
I'm somebody who's just like, just take control away from me. If you just want to have characters talk and do anything, just take the control away from me. I would literally rather put my controller down and just know the game is going to take care of everything than have these annoying situations where it's like,
throw it.
Oh, I have to talk to this character just so that I walk across the room and talk to another character.
Yeah. Oh God, I hate that.
Why?
That is the worst. Like, if it gets into some weird he said she said stupid shit, where it's just like if you're literally having to cross the same room, unless that's the point of like that's the point of like the quest or whatever you're on, where you're relaying information between two parties who just aren't talking to each other for whatever reason because it's some petty bullshit. That I'm fine with because that's funny. But if it's literally just like, Dexter is here and Samantha's over there in the same bar, and like in order for you to complete this quest, you got to go to Dexter and then get the thing, and then maybe run outside and do something else, and then come back, and then he's like, okay, go talk to Samantha. She's like, yeah, do this thing. Oh, you already got the stuff for Dexter? Cool, go back over to him. And you do that. And he's like, okay, cool. They go back to Samantha with these things. But you've already gotten those things because you explored and stuff, and you've already gotten them previously. And you go back over there, and you go back to... It's that shit I fucking hate. And like that stuff is why... I heard that Starfield is filled to the brim with quests like that. I cannot stand, and will make me want to just destroy my PC with a fucking hammer.
Yeah, I will say. So I guess I'm not a big Bethesda games person.
Like I want to be more than I am, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think Starfield was ever going to be for me, so I only played a little bit of it. I will say, I think one of the things that they do that is, like a good implementation of RPG dialogue mechanics is, you have
brought back the Oblivion influence wheel.
Well, kind of like you have, you're like faction reps, for lack of a better term.
That's different. That's not that.
This group of people versus, this other group of people, you might want to respond differently. Like, hey, even if you're playing a dick, you still might be like, well, I want to be nice to this person because they're with this faction and I don't want that, reputation to drop.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's sure. Kind of another thing, right? Of, okay.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, if I say something mean to this one character, it sucks that they don't acknowledge it. It doesn't change anything in their, chain quest. But it also sucks in sort of the wider world. If I'm constantly making choices that are rude and mean, that the people around me in no way acknowledge that stuff, in no way will be like, oh, okay, this is how this person is. Like Baldur's Gate is pretty good for that, where it's like, hey, there are going to be situations where you might make a dialogue choice that, hey, it makes Astarion happy, but Will's like, nah, I'm not happy about that. And
I'm cool with you sucking blood, Astarion. Oh, thanks. Will's just like, bad people. Yeah, fucking wet blanket.
That's sort of that bigger thing. Is like, oh, it doesn't just suck that there's, a guy in Immortal Savium that could just be like, suck my dick. And that he still kind of has to give canned dialogue. But it's that no one else in that world is like, hey, man, heard you were kind of a dick to Tom. Why? He's a great guy. What's wrong with you? Just no one else will acknowledge it. And so, that there are other games, too, that have this problem.
At least tell me dialogue. At least tell me in Immortals of Avium. Because it seems like I know that goes broy or whatever, but I just get the image because they are wizards, just like these really classy wizards, and just the one guy's like, fucking suck my dick. He's like,
that game has very like Marvel writing.
Yeah. Whatever. Who cares then?
Yeah, kind of explains it, right?
God damn it.
But I think another weird thing about that is. And you can have a scripted, let's say, or a predetermined character and give dialogue options. Mass Effect. I always point to that as there's no excuse to not have voice dialogue for a character, because even though that is a game where everybody has their shepherd, right? Oh, my shepherd did this. My shepherd made this choice. They romanced this person. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, the choice.
Shepherd as a character is really still has certain traits that are.
Yeah.
You cannot do anything that will take them away, right? Hey, he's always this very determined person. He's never hesitant in making choices. He's always going to be very confident, or I should say. You should say, yeah. They will be very confident in the choices that they make.
Exactly.
Right? You can never take that away.
Yeah.
But in something like an Immortals of Avium, that character is even more defined, where my choices are not in any way a reflection of their character. I can in no way craft Jack, who's the main character.
Jack. It's always a J name.
The wizard Jack.
It's always a J name.
He can never be something different. He can never be something else. And so it's just weird to give me options to be like, do you want to be nice or do you want to be mean? Because I can't change that character. Mass Effect, you can be a dick and the world will know you are a dick. You will have that reputation. You can still have, hey, Shepard, still very, quick in making their decision, not a hesitant person, but boy, they're a dick. Whereas in that, it's like, well, it's just not, it's not true. Your character is never going to be that. And I think
exactly
Persona's actually another example where
Persona's an example, yes.
It's why I wish they voiced the character, because they try and make it seem like by not voicing the character, you can project whatever you want onto the character.
I mean,
but
in a
Joker,
way you can, but yeah, you're right.
But you can't. Joker is never going to be cowardly. Joker is never going to be considered, the funny guy of the group, right? It doesn't matter. Even if you always go for the gag answer, all the other scenes are so pre-scripted. And so I wish when games were giving you these dialogue choices too, that they acknowledge that, hey, no matter what, your character has a certain trait to them. It's just the nature of how we have to write these sorts of games, that you can't be so open-ended that, we have to write every line of dialogue so that a character might be talking to you as if you were goofy, or as if you were, more of an anxious person, or more of a reserved person, or more of a bubbly, outgoing person, So I wish games were also just a little more forthright in, let's just actually give you options that make sense for the character that we have in our mind as writers, that we know, this will suit your character, instead of, a lot of these games that have the bad implementation where they're just going, well, we need these to be very polar opposite things so that it feels like you are making a choice, as if you're being, do you want good or do you want bad?
Which, who cares?
That's not who this character is. This character already has traits.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, you use Mass Effect in this case to kind of like as a good example. What's interesting there is so I attempted early on in my playthrough of the first Mass Effect to. So I played my original character, my first character all the way through all three games, and then at one point I went back to the first game and made a renegade Shepard, who my original one is a Paragon, and I was like, okay, I started to see this seems too much, because it's like, they have a very specific story they want to tell. They have your character really only wants to do these specific things. At some point, you're still going to fight the Geth. You're still going to fight blah 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 blah. The collectors, it's whatever it is.
No, the collectors are two. Thank you.
I know. You're gonna do whatever. And you're still gonna defeat Saren and all this stuff, but then determining what you're gonna do as a renegade versus a Paragon is still there in the greater scheme of things. However, it doesn't necessarily matter that much, realistically.
No.
So it does kind of lend itself to be like, I can choose all the renegade options or all the Paragon options, but really, I'm telling the same story with a few twists tossed in via my input, which is how you probably should do it, because a video game is hard to make. You can't just put every option in there, obviously. But then I go back to a game like Oblivion, and you're talking about dialogue trees, which I'm using Oblivion specifically and not Skyrim, because Skyrim is a little more straightforward, where you can just choose the however many options it is per option for you to choose dialogue.
2 or 3, I think. Not
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 7, whatever it is. But in Oblivion, the way they did it, so if you wanted to be more of let's say you wanted to play a funny character, when you worked on getting your charisma up and your dialogue and your speech skills up, because we still had those things, the more you did those things in Oblivion, because Oblivion is more of an RPG, the more you did those things, the more it reflected that in the game. And the way this worked, the influence wheel minigame you had in Oblivion basically meant that if you wanted to keep being funny, you could just keep knocking on that option in the influence wheel and seeing where that takes you. Like, that is always just an option you had. So, you know, you have your normal dialogue options you can choose for quests and plot reasons and whatever. But you're trying to, like, get on this person's good side, and you find it, oh, they're like a funny guy? Here we go, I'm a funny guy. You can just... Yeah, that's one way to play it off. You have to kind of fill the blanks in for yourself, of course, to be like, I'm probably saying these funny things, or whatever. But still, it's a way to kind of put that in a game and give you a way to feel as if you were doing something that's beyond just what's presented to you.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what all these complaints boil down to, is it just needs to feel like my choices matter.
Yeah.
It needs to feel like if you are presenting me a choice, that I am being given a choice so that I can actually, whether it's gameplay, whether it's story, you know, whatever it is,
yes,
it needs to have impact. It needs to feel like there is an effect or consequences as a result of it. And if you're just presenting it to me, you know, 2 doors, but regardless of which I open, they're literally just, it's the same room. They're just literally side by side. Then just don't even bother. Just skip giving me a choice and just make it a hallway into the room.
Yep.
You know, I would prefer that myself so much more.
I hear you. Yeah.
We should probably wrap it up. So why don't you tell people where they can go buy a rocket propelled grenade?
Little thing they'll call it the black web. The dark web, black market kind of thing. Yeah.
All right.
I'm pretty sure there's somebody in probably Afghanistan or...
almost certainly, yes.
Yeah. Kazakhstan definitely has a few people like that, so...
Sounds about right,
yeah. Albania. Ooh, now we...
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a whole lot about Albania. No comment?
Cambodia definitely has a few people who definitely will have a few of those lying around.
Yeah, that seems like a spot where, yes, if you want to buy some weapons, you could buy some weapons.
Yeah, there's a whole thing with the... it's a weird black site where you can go to buy weapons there, and then you can shoot them at whatever you want. You gotta pay for it, but you know...
Does not shock me.
No?
Yeah.
If you want to take a M23 Saab machine gun and just shoot a animal to parts.
Oh, no, I don't want to do that.
Most people don't. Occasionally. No. You should watch the... If you remember that was Cambodia, you should watch Dark Tourist for more information on how to get RPGs.
All right, perfect. Well, and on that note, you tell people where to find us.
FBI watch list at this point. It's at EIFNAR on Twitter. We're there all the time. I can't lie to you, I'm not there anymore. But Hassan's there. He'll scream at you about something. Yell at Hassan about how much you enjoy RPGs, mechanics, and video games.
Yeah, I do enjoy them. Just, the right ones and the right games.
Yeah. You should also go to our Spotify, iTunes, those places where you can listen to podcasts. Your podcatcher will catch our podcast from the thin air, pluck it like a peach from a tree, and then put it into your phone, typically, or tablet, whatever device you use to listen to our show. And put it right there for your listening pleasure. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, there's a bunch of buttons you can click. I don't care which ones. All engagement, realistically.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, you can hit that dislike button a billion times, and that'll basically still give us engagement.
Pretty sure you can only hit it once.
Yeah, it's true. Just click it on and off a bunch of times, like it's your.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Like you're just trying to key like you're trying to do a QuickTime event.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
But you're supposed to lose that event, so but you're too good at them.
Ugh.
That has literally happened to me, where like I was playing a game. I'm pretty sure it's a Telltale game where you're supposed to lose the quick time event because like it's too hard, and I was winning it. I was there for like 2 minutes. Like, okay. Anyway, go click buttons, make friends, tell people friends stuff. That podcast, yes. Also go to our website, djdane.com. That's good. Does our music. He is great at music. djdane.com. Go there, listen to his great tunes. And just like, hey, if you want to get into a dialogue option with him, he has just 5 things that you can say to him. One of those is leave. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate. That must make his job difficult.
Or very easy.
Suppose it's also an option, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you only have like 4 things you can talk to him about, and eventually if you exhaust those, it's just the one thing. Yeah. So like, 2 things, just like the one thing that you can talk to him about anymore and leave. It's like real life.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, real life's not like that.
I think it is. Ooh. See, if someone comes up to me and it's like, "Hey, I want to," you told me all about, the history of the armed forces of the Khmer Rouge. I would be like, "Well, I've already told you that. You can now only ask me about pizzas or leave." And they go like, "Well, I still want to discuss the Khmer Rouge." Like, "Nah, pizzas or leave." It's like real life.
Boy, you have some weird conversations in real life, apparently.
They're very easy conversations, gotta say.
Yeah, I guess.
Makes my life excellent. Anyway, that's it for our show. Tune in for another embryologist episode of Everything's Fine, Everything is Ruined. See ya.
See ya.
Say it. You are correct. You win.